Here we go. I'd like to call this meeting of your Newark City Council to order. Autumn, please call the roll.
Mr. Rath?
Here.
Mr. Blake?
Here.
Mr. Bub?
Here.
Mr. Koss?
Here.
Mr. Fennell?
Here.
Mr. Frazier?
Present.
Ms. Hall? Mr. Labutus?
Here.
Mr. Lang?
Present.
And Mr. Marley?
Present.
We have all here for one this evening. If you please stand for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Labutus.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, as we come to you in prayer right now, thank you for this day that you've given us, another day to serve you. I ask you to be with us this evening in our conversations, and as we look at plans for the city, legislation, as we hear from those that live in the city as well. Just be in our conversations, guide us in our ways, and help us to have a good evening. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Labutus. Next on the agenda tonight, we have caucus. That's the time for council to discuss anything pertaining to the agenda tonight. Do we have anything?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marvin.
I'd like to excuse Ms. Hall.
Motion by Mr. Marvin to excuse Ms. Hall.
Second.
Second by Mr. Koss. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. That passes. Thank you. Next, we have the minutes of our September 16th, 2019 meeting. Do we have a motion to approve those?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Labutus.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lang. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. Thank you. We have 3 reports this evening from standing committees, one from finance, one from service, and one from street. Without objection, those will be received and filed. We have 2 reports this evening from our city officials, one from Stephen Johnson, our auditor, the operating report for the period ending September 30th, 2019, and Barb Jobs, our city tax administrator, the income tax revenue reports for the period ending September 16th, 2019. Without objection, those will be received and filed. Under petitions this evening, we have 3. All 3 are alley vacations. One an alley running east off Union Street between 33 and 45 Union Street. One alley vacation running west off South 29th Street, located south of Steele Avenue. And the final one, an alley running south off Schillender Street, located east of South 2nd Street. Without objection, those will be received and filed. And under communications, we have one from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control, a new liquor application for 1922 on the square, 10 North Park Place, the old Natoma building. That will be received and filed. Next on the agenda, we have comments from citizens. There's 2 times for citizens' comments. One is now, and one is after the legislation. Citizens' comments are not a debate with council or question and answer period. It's just your time to be heard. Would anyone like to speak this first section? If you please raise your hand. Ma'am, if you'll just come on up. Ma'am, if you'll just come on up to the podium and just give us your name and address for the record. Okay. Anyone else like to speak this first section? Okay. Go right ahead.
My name is Joanne Woodland. I live on King Road outside this city district.
Okay.
But I am here to talk about the intersection of King Road and Sharon Valley. And it's, as you probably know, it's a nightmare sometimes. It's dangerous and frustrating, and the issues are these. A left turn from King is extremely difficult to make because, well, they just repaved and put the yellow line 1 car length from the intersection. So you come up there and you're wanting to stop, but if you want to turn left, there's a solid wall of greenery. I mean, there's no light that gets through. You can't see anything through those bushes. They're big trees, beautiful trees. I called the business there. I called the university. I was told the university owned that plot, but they don't. I called the staff there at that building, and they said they did not own those trees. They don't know who owns them. It's a right-of-way, probably. I don't know who owns them. During rush hour traffic, you're probably aware, the people coming up Sharon Valley to turn into King are wanting to hurry because it slows down traffic so much for left turns. And so they cut across. I just came tonight and there was a great big black truck, pickup truck. I was coming up slowly and he pulled right across my lane. not across Sharon Valley, but across my lane, and I had to stop way back. It's dangerous. There's accidents there. We don't know who owns those trees, but removing some of those might make a difference. In partly. I understand you tried a stoplight some years ago there, a blinking light, but my suggestion is, and I talked to several people about this, but my suggestion is a three-way stop. You don't need a light. And someone told me that they tried it and it was so confusing for the drivers that it was worse than before. But if you just put up a sign and train them, give right away to the person on your right, and then everybody just takes turns. It's really cheap that way. No extra lane, no roundabout, 3 signs. We've lived there 6 years, and it's been that way ever since. That's all. That's my comments.
I live pretty close to that. I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're talking about the trees on the JBA property, I assume?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'll pass that along to the service director and see if maybe we could do that. And I know our engineer, he tried the three-way stop, and that didn't last very long. I'm not sure why. But I know our city engineer is talking about possibly a roundabout there and at Country Club. I don't know what you feel about that, but I know he's checking that out. So
The cost would be a lot more than 3 signs.
it would be.
And you could have a policeman standing there saying, your turn, until they get used to it. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to ordinances on the first reading, 19-25.
Ordinance 19-25 by Mr. Marmee, Mr. Cost, Mr. Labutus, Mr. Lang, an ordinance authorizing and directing the Newark City Safety Director to certify to the Licking County Auditor the sum of $260,732.01 incurred by the Newark City Property Maintenance Division with respect to property maintenance violations to be placed as a lien upon certain parcels of real property situated in the city of Newark, Ohio.
19-25 will be held for 2 weeks until our next meeting on October 21st. Next, we have 19-26 on its first reading.
Ordinance 19-26 by Mr. Cost, Mr. Labutus, Mr. Marmee, and Mr. Lang. An ordinance vacating a part of a 16 1/2 foot wide alley and part of lots 136 and 149 of the original plat of the city of Newark as recorded in Plat Book 2, page 4 of the Licking County Plat Records. Said alley is located south of Schindler Street between South 1st Street and South 2nd Street.
19-26 will be held for 2 weeks until October 21st for a second reading. Next, we have 19-27.
Ordinance 19-27 by Mr. Cost, Mr. Labutus, Mr. Marmee, Mr. Lang, an ordinance vacating a 12-foot wide alley as shown on the plat of the Wintermute Edition as recorded in Plat Book 3, page 121 of the Licking County Plat Records. Said alley is located south of Steel Avenue between South 29th Street and South 30th Street.
And 19-27 will be held for 2 weeks for a second reading. And finally, on the first reading, we have 19-28.
Ordinance 19-28 by Mr. Cost, Mr. Labutus, Mr. Marmee, Mr. Lang, an ordinance vacating a 16 1/2 foot wide alley as shown on the plat of the town of Lockport as recorded in Plat Book 2, page 100 of the Licking County Plat Records. Said alley is located between 33 and 45 Union Street.
And 19-28 will be held for 2 weeks for a second reading. Next, we have resolutions on the second reading. 19-65.
Resolution 19-65 by Mr. Marmee, Mr. Cost, Mr. Frazier, Mr. Rath, Mr. Labutus, and Mr. Lang, a resolution appropriating monies for the current expenses of the municipal corporation.
You've heard the second reading of 19-65. What is your wish?
Mr. President.
Mr. Marmon.
Make a motion to adopt Resolution 19-65.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Marmon. Second by Mr. Cost. Is there any discussion on 19-65? Seeing none, I'll please call the roll vote.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Bub?
Yes.
Mr. Cost?
Yes.
Mr. Fennell?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Ms. Hall? Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
And Mr. Marmon.
Yes.
19-65 passes 9-0. Next on the second reading, we have 19-66.
Resolution 19-66 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Marmee, Mr. Cost, Mr. Frazier, Mr. Labutus, and Mr. Lang, a resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service of the City of Newark, Ohio to enter into contract without competitive bidding for the rebuild and reinstallation of one screening unit at the City of Newark wastewater treatment plant.
You've heard the second reading of 19-66. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt 1966.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Rath.
Second.
Second by Mr. Frazier. Is there any discussion on 19-66? Seeing none, I'll please call the roll vote.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Bub?
Yes.
Mr. Cost?
Yes.
Mr. Fennell?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Ms. Hall? Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
And Mr. Marmee?
Yes.
19-66 passes 9-0. Next on the second reading, we have 19-67.
Resolution 19-67 by Mr. Marmee, Mr. Cost, Mr. Frazier, Mr. Rath, Mr. Labutus, and Mr. Lang, a resolution repealing Resolution 19-33 and amending the distribution and use of net emergency medical transport revenue.
You've heard the second reading of 19-67. What is your wish? Somebody help me. It's Ms. Hall.
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmee.
motion to adopt Resolution 19-67.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Marmee, second by Mr. Rath. Is there any discussion on 19-67? Seeing none, I'll please call the roll vote.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Bub?
Yes.
Mr. Cost?
Yes.
Mr. Fennell?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Ms. Hall? Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
And Mr. Marmee?
Yes.
19-67 passes 9-0. And finally, on the second reading, we have 19-68.
Resolution 19-68 by Mr. Marmee, Mr. Cost, Mr. Frazier, Mr. Rath, Mr. Labutus, and Mr. Lang, a resolution appropriating monies for the current expenses of the municipal corporation.
You've heard the second reading of 19-68. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Lang.
yeah, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 19-68.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Lang.
Second.
Second by Mr. Frazier. Is there any discussion on 19-68? Seeing none, I'll please call the roll vote.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Blake? Yes. Mr. Bub?
Yes.
Mr. Cost?
Yes.
Mr. Fennell?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Ms. Hall? Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
And Mr. Marmee?
Yes.
19-68 passes 9-0. Finally, this evening, resolutions on the first reading, 19-69.
Resolution 19-69 by Mr. Marmee, Mr. Cost, Mr. Labutus, and Mr. Lang, a resolution appropriating monies for the current expenses of the municipal corporation.
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmee.
I'd like to make a motion to waive the two-day reading rule on Resolution 19-69.
Motion to waive the two-day reading rule by Mr. Marmee.
Second.
Second by Mr. Frazier. Mr. Marmee.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a buyout for an employee, and also we have some paybacks of grants that we had to give the money back to the state that need to be expedited so then they can get that money back right away.
Thank you, Mr. Marmee. Autumn, please call the roll and waive the two-day reading rule.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Bub?
Yes.
Mr. Cost?
Yes.
Mr. Fennell?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Ms. Hall? Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
And Mr. Marmee?
Yes.
Two-day reading rule has been waived. Mr. Marmee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Make a motion to adopt Resolution 18-69.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Marmee.
Second.
Second by Mr. Frazier. Is there any discussion, any other discussion, I guess, on 19-69? Seeing none, I'll please call the roll and vote.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Bub?
Yes.
Mr. Cost?
Yes.
Mr. Fennell?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Ms. Hall? Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
And Mr. Marmee?
Yes.
And 19-69 passes 9-0, and that's it for the legislation tonight. Thanks for your attention. We appreciate it. Next, we have our second opportunity for comments from citizens. Again, this is not a debate with council. This is just your opportunity to be heard. If anyone would like to speak, please raise your hand. Sir, come on up. Anyone else? Okay.
Stephen Smith, 237 Violet Court, Newark, Ohio. I have a just general comment to make tonight and about elections. Early election is starting tomorrow, and I will assure you at the beginning that I'm not speaking before or against any candidate. The right to elect our representatives is central to our society, and I want to encourage everyone to take advantage of this opportunity. It's been my privilege to observe council meetings for a couple years on a fairly regular basis now. And while I don't agree with what everyone's positions are in every case, that's typical of our society. But I do want to say that I appreciate the fact that it is my impression that every one of our elected officials takes seriously their oath of office and seriously has the good of our community at heart. And I want to encourage everyone to vote for their preferred candidates in this election cycle. I know that at this forum I'm probably preaching to the converted here, but hopefully this word will get out to over the YouTube channel and news. But it is essential for our society to work that voters get out and vote. Thank you.
Thank you. That might be the nicest thing anybody said for a while. Ma'am? Now don't come up here and ruin it.
Rochelle Boland-Smith, 237 Violet Court. I was thinking, I read an article about the Land of Legend concert recently, and I understand they did a better job on sound control. And I was in my travels. Couldn't help but noticing all the sound barrier sort of things that were in existence, especially around highways and all, and was wondering whether that was a consideration for the one in Newark, in terms of creating some sort of sound effective materials to create a barrier. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Any city officials this evening? Honorable Law Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll pass.
Mayor Hall.
I just want to remind everyone next year is census count, and we did have a gentleman in here a few months ago to talk about that. But the county and city are working together with a task force, and it's important that people get counted. That sets out a lot of the funding from federal and state levels, and those numbers are critically important. And to let everybody know, if you don't want someone coming to your door, you can get online and fill it out and take care of it. So we'll have more discussion as we move forward, move into 2020, but it's a great way to get counted without having to answer the door at home if you choose not to. With that, I pass. Thank you,
Mayor. And I do believe he's coming back to talk to council again.
Yeah, we'll have more discussions and we'll get into more things, but everybody get kind of geared up for it.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Rapp.
Well, going first, I was going to talk about upholding your civic duty and voting, since early voting started tomorrow, but Mr. Smith stole my thunder on that, so with that I guess I'll pass.
Thanks, Mr. Rapp. Mr. Blake?
I'll pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. Mr. Bub?
I will pass. Thank you.
Mr. Bub, Mr. Scott?
I will pass. Thank you.
Mr. Fidel?
I'll pass. Thank you.
Everybody's anxious to get out of here.
Mr. LeBit? Oh, no. Mr. Frazier?
Mr. President, I got to have the opportunity to sit in the transportation meeting that we had in the city building, and I'm really encouraged by that conversation that was had. The opportunities of multiple groups that can work together and find a common solution to this. It's kind of the same take that I have on the homeless initiative that we kind of passed through the finance committee. Is we have the opportunity for a lot of groups and a lot of interested parties to share their vision and find a collective idea in order to move the city forward. And so I think all of those things are great ideas. I also want to thank the administration for their work in North Street Park. This has been an ongoing initiative with the HHCA and the city, the Economic Development Department and the Service Department, and thank you, Director Motter. And they put all the equipment in. They did the mulching. It looks great. The next step is the shelter house that they're building as well. And it's really just come a long way over a very short amount of time. I also got the opportunity to go to Canal Market and enter into a pie eating contest, and I did not win, but it was for a good cause, and really great stuff going on downtown, including the jail haunted house, and I would encourage anybody to go down there and support that cause. Also, there's an HHCA meeting this Thursday at 7 p.m. at the GMP Hall, and with that, I'll yield.
Mr. Frazier, Mr. Levitas?
I'm going to pass this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Levitas. Mr. Lang?
Yeah, so a few things. She left, but Mrs. Wiblin and I had spoken about the Sharon Valley and King Road intersections. I do want to continue working with the administration to see about addressing that. I think the trees eliminating or creating some view to the left there off of King Road, I think would be helpful. Mr. Smith, thank you for coming and talking about elections. I think that was a nice note. I guess I would encourage anybody who doesn't know about the candidates. There's a candidates night coming up on Thursday. The chamber is going to be holding that over at Doubletree. I think it starts about 6:30. I think there's a few folks in this room who might be there. The transportation meeting I did think was good. If any of those folks are reading these notes, I would encourage them to take a look at Mr. Frazier's transportation plan. He had done some great research, I think, and coming up with some great ideas. And then last, I'd just like to thank the administration. I think you guys are doing a great job with the paving program. Kudos to Brian Moorhead and our engineering department and everybody who's put that together. I've gotten a number of compliments from residents who are happy to see a lot of our neighborhood roads and streets getting paved that are overdue. So thank you, and with that I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. And Mr. Marmee?
Thank you, Mr. President. Need to call a Finance Committee meeting, and with that I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Marmee. Again, I do believe early voting starts tomorrow. I think it starts the 8th, so thanks for that reminder. And we've already talked about the chamber meeting on the 10th. Our next regular committee meeting will be October 21st, 2 weeks from tonight, starting at 5:45. Our next full council meeting will be following that in this room at 7 p.m. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Koss, second by Mr. Levitas. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you for coming.